yeah, WingChun Workout. So again, these 5 A's, no one teacher, no one school is just one. Everything is a mix. And so even the term martial workout, so that's a bit perhaps more the aerobic, the fitness part, right? But of course, you mentioned Wing Chun, which is a particular style and history and development and focus. So perhaps there's even some of that alchemy, right, to change yourself for the better. And even we can get even into the specific name Wing Chun, which I have a certain interpretation for, which is a meme and a principle that I use in my own training. So again, if I could offer another context or map, it's sort of a quadrant matrix of 2 by 2. So on the top, you could say solo, right? And partner. You mentioned those terms, solo, partner, types of practice by yourself or with others. And then on the vertical axis, we could say more form or formal or sequenced or protocol, right? Set. But I use the word form to describe that as a keyword. And then function, form and function. This is kind of a biological thing where you say form informs function, right? And you can also maybe, like if you're looking at dinosaur bones archaeologically, try to determine the function by the form, right? And so by function, I mean application. I mean more towards like what I said for the A of martial actuality, that form sometimes is more theoretical, or it's more for the internal alchemy, changing, breathing, you know, the spiritual aspects, training your mind. And it doesn't necessarily translate into martial actuality. And so the test, if you will, is kind of the functional aspect. Can we walk the walk? Can this theory be put into practice? So you have, therefore, solo form, right? You have partner form, you have solo function and partner function. Okay, so I would say a complete program. And again, maybe you're not looking for a complete program, but you're just looking for one aspect. Covers all 4 of these. Yeah. But of course, we can emphasize, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. And from your question, if we go back to that after I kind of zoomed out, is this perhaps the solo function, actually. So solo forms are ones that are inherited, almost like a song, right? Whatever, happy birthday, right? Then in different cultures has evolved, obviously, to different language. You have that in Chinese, you have that in Spanish, you have that in Greek. Maybe the melody changes too, I don't know, in some countries. So, but it's inherited, and it's the melody, right, is more or less da 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 da, right? It's not like dun 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 dun, right? Then it's like not that song anymore. So every, I think, traditional, let's just say, martial art, meaning a martial art with a certain intergenerational lineage, has developed these songs. And so I call those solo forms. And those are important because they give you a vocabulary. They're like an alphabet, to use another metaphor. I use a music metaphor and then linguistic metaphor. They're like an alphabet. Everyone has to learn A, and then followed by B, followed by C, all the way to Z, right? So you have these 26 letter sequence. Can you train it like C, X, M, T, right? I guess, but it's not so useful, right? If you're trying to work within a certain context, right? Maybe in a different culture or a different planet or metaverse or multiverse, right? They do the alphabet like C, Y, X. You're like, wow, right? But that's contextual. And so if we stay with that, so within the context of a school or style or training priority, one of the 5 A's, right? We need some things that are predictable, that are set, like grammatical rules or spelling rules, et cetera, alphabetical order, right? Otherwise, it's chaos. You don't have any way to filter and map out reality. You got to start somewhere. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Now, what I said about mixing up the letters is actually now relevant, is actually perfect and good to train in the solo function quadrant. Solo form, no, don't change it. Maybe after you become a grandmaster and you've taught thousands of students or whatever, students who are also masters, and then maybe amongst some senior students, you can discuss, like this we inherited from the last grandmaster. I always wondered about that. I always felt like it would work better, with, you know, ACB rather than ABC. So, by the authority of the lineage, I change it, and that's how styles evolve, right? And so some practitioners are more fundamentalists in the sense of traditionalists. They try to, no, that's not allowed. You got to keep everything like the late grandmaster and et cetera generations did, right? Not allowed to change it, right? And that's cool, right? That creates fidelity and tradition. And then you have some practitioners who are more innovative, right? They're more progressive, not as conservative. So this kind of personality trait, right, plays out in politics, plays out in academia, plays out even in martial culture. And so the more progressive ones like don't mind changing things, right? They're not stuck to tradition. And it's good and bad. I would say I'm not judging either one as good or bad per se. They both have pro and con, right? Innovation is good, but are you going to try to reinvent the wheel before you understand what a wheel is, or see how other people, you know, uh, wheel? I would say it's better if you understand the tradition and then perhaps, shift it based on your own creativity. Now, the previous conservatism without progress, right, or tradition without innovation becomes stale. It can rot, right? It can, and like you see, even in the martial arts, right? We developed over the decades, hopefully, right, that we're not doing martial arts in the same way that Bruce Lee was, right, or that his teacher, right, Yip Man was, etc., right? Um, and not to say, new and future is better, or old school OG tradition is worse, right? In some way, maybe if you go back far enough to like the Neanderthal versus the the Homo sapien age, right? They also did martial arts too, right? And so maybe it was more primal, more real, without all these kind of CGI, kind of fantasies, etc. Right? So solo function is where you take the alphabet, just to keep that alphabet metaphor, spelling, and change the sequence, right? So A through Z, that sequence. And everyone learns A through Z in a particular school lineage. But what's cool, even now, after 25 years, like, let's say technique ABC, right? Let's just say that. First three techniques of the first form. No one, maybe in the history of the lineage, has ever done CAB, right? I never taught it. I never learned it. My teacher never mentioned it. Maybe someone did, but let's just say theoretically, no one did in 10 generations rearranged ABC to CAB. Wow, right? That's very innovative. And of course, the test then is, does that make sense, right? ABC obviously, let's say, makes sense within a certain style. But let's see, how come no one ever did C first and then A and then B? And so those are the kind of things you discover in solo function. It's part of the creative process. It's part of developing that innovative spirit, part of putting yourself into the art, not just receiving the art. So I think it's very important to become, let's just say, a creative or a sovereign, even become your own kind of warrior, and not just, again, with a little bit negative connotation, just parrot or just mimic what you received. Right? And so I think it's a very important thing.